Hi, friends. My name's host Eric. I'm the host of Talking with Venable. And isn't it really the case that we could all use a Fred in our life? Which Fred am I talking about? I'm talking about Scooby-Doo Fred, of course. The guy who's always so positive and encouraging. Says, come on, gang. We can do it. It's like we could all use a Fred to say, come on, gang. We're on this together. We're a team. Now, you go over there. You two go over there. And me and Velma are going to go get it on in the back room. It's like Fred's always sending Scooby and Shaggy out by themselves and Velma off by herself. So maybe we don't need a Fred. Maybe we don't need that aspect of Fred. But we do need the aspect of Fred that says, come on, gang. We can do it if we try. The encouraging encouragement. I think he's an ESFJ. I think Fred's an ESFJ. I really do. He could be an ENFJ because, in the cartoon, you don't hear a lot of SI shit. Characters don't typically reminisce about their own pasts very much. He's got to be FE. The Fred we're using today, was his mom, is the Fred from Scooby-Doo. The Fred who's always saying, come on, gang, we can do it. We just need to stick together and be a team. Like that attitude, right? Very positive. Like I mentioned, of course, granted, maybe philosophical thinker has a point there. He is kind of TE about his using of people as means to an end. He's always not really caring about Shaggy and Scooby's safety. He's willing to put them in any kind of danger, and he seems to have strange exclusive control over Scooby Snacks. I'm not sure why. The other thing I would say about Fred is he dresses nicely. He's got an ascot. He's not afraid to go around with a little bit of flash and flair. He's not worried about being called gay. He's secure in his masculinity. It's a lack of barbershops, as long as what it is. I would have gone to the barber long since and just say number 2 or number 2.5 all around. And they get that. They put the thing on the clipper that makes it a certain length and just go all around, But ain't no party like my mama's tea party. My Nana's tea party, if anybody gets that reference. Anybody get that reference? Ain't no party like my Nana's tea party. I'm tired of being quite so shaggy. I'd like to get my beard trimmed. I gotta say, it in retrospect makes me kind of retrospectively value more than I did at the time living in a place that had a hair salon in the house. Where when I lived in Laverne, I had access to T-square clippers, regular regular clippers, I guess you call them, and like hair cutting shears and all that shit. Thanks, Vindy Deluxe. Well, I just think that, first of all, like, he's using FE to make everybody okay with the fact that he's just sort of structuring things so he has as much alone time with Daphne as possible, right? He's just always trying to get up on Daphne, I think, is his bottom line. It's like every time they go investigate a mystery, who does the real work? Shaggy and Scooby and Velma. And Daphne and Fred are just off someplace, Where are they? Well, I think we know where they are. I think Daphne's blowing Fred behind some bales of hay. Is it typical for a type to experience some kind of magnetic attraction towards their quasi-identical? Is quasi-identical like ESTP for me? Or ESFP for you? I mean, I would say that it's normal for you to feel towards that type a sense of understanding, a sense of mutual understanding. I feel like I get ESTPs. Oh, ENTP, ENTJ. In my experience, there's an immediate sense of there's an immediate sense that, oh, okay, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some here, some like common ground, some connection, some whatever. But then it doesn't play out like that. When you start talking to them and stuff, you're always talking past each other. It's weird. I dated 3 times an ENTJ woman, and took her out on 3 dates, and I never felt like we really connected. Like, they don't process language that's spoken aloud very, very well or quickly. They have to pay a lot of attention to process spoken aloud language. And I'm a talker, So it really came into clarity when we both shared in the car a conversation about our love of short stories, and then I played her on the radio. Yeah, yeah, right. Winston's mom. That's the one I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't remember what her name was, but I played her a video I had of myself reading Sredni Vashtar aloud. I thought this would be good. It'd be a good way for us to connect, because it's a good reason for me to play some YouTube video of mine that's not actually about anything that I made myself, right? So it's not like, here, look at me reading my own story. It's, oh, we both like short stories. Here's one way that I engage in short stories that we can both enjoy right now, because I like that story listening, even if I'm very familiar with it, but I can listen to myself read it again. And the story is good enough that hopefully, since I read it pretty smoothly, this will be a pleasant, entertaining experience for you. It doesn't require you to pad my ego at all. If you want to, you might say, oh, you read that well or something, but you don't need to. You just talk about the story, we'll be fine. Anyway, at the end of playing the story, that's my explanation, my FE thinking going into playing the story. Okay. At the end of playing the story, she revealed that it was just an incredible challenge for her to follow what was happening in the story. It required all of her attention, that she doesn't process language very well when it's read aloud like that. I always, back in the day, liked that lady, Janine Garofalo. Whatever happened to Janine Garofalo? That's a good question. By King Krishna song Rapagoo. Right now, or yesterday, I guess, day before, I was starting to really feel bummed out by all of this COVID stuff. When on Mother's Day, I went out to try to get a few different items, including Drano. And I couldn't find any store that didn't have this massive line. I tried to go to Home Depot, forget about it. I tried to go to, it's just like, okay, fuck this COVID shit. I'm tired of all these self-inflicted wounds. Why is my life being made unnecessarily difficult? Either the social distancing thing works, which is what they're using at like the Home Depot and the supermarkets and stuff, in which case every place should use that, or it doesn't, in which case, then what's the fuck, Fred cheapens the name of friendship. He reminded me of that Tom guy. You'd think all music was N-I-F-E reading his comments. Fred cheapens the name of friendship? Because are you saying he's too positive? Come on, gang. I don't cheapen the name of friendship. We can do it if we work together. No. Yeah, that's the Fred I'm talking about. The Fred from Scooby-Doo. He's not only is he very positive, he also is a sharp dresser. You gotta admit that look. He's got his look. Anybody else who dresses like that are just imitating him. There's no way you could sort of say like, this is my look. No, it's not your look. That's Fred's look. Don't tell me you independently came up with this white shirt, ascot, blue pants, tan shoes thing. I'm just not buying it. That's Fred's look. You stole that from Fred. It's like there aren't many characters in the world that they have a certain, it's like, oh. Yeah, well, no. Not a Fred bot. Although Fred's kind of like a bot, I guess, in a sense. He never gets discouraged. Let me see if I can find some quotes. Quotes from Fred from Scooby-Doo. Quotes. Scrappy, for the 1,000th time, there are no such thing as ghosts. Looks like we've got another mystery on our hands. Okay, here's the plan. Shaggy, you and Scooby create a diversion. Shaggy says, right. Daphne, you and Velma will jump over the other side of the roof and get to that control panel. Check. What about me? Says the ghost. Well, you're going to make your way over to that. And they all run away. That's great writing, you know? Fred's planning out the attack about the ghosts here. Shaggy and Scooby are going to create a version. Daphne, you and Velma jump over to the other side of the roof and get to that control panel. Fred, why are you making the girls do that? I'll stand here and watch you. Let's see. Meddling kids. Like, it's totally... Fred is a bit skeevy and manipulative. Every Scooby-Doo episode seems to follow a formula. The gang drives through the night, comes across a potentially haunted location, gets down to business looking for clues. Then, in what is never a good idea when surveying and trespassing on a decrepit and abandoned place full of dangers, and possibly ghosts or monsters, the four humans decide to split up into search parties. While that's already inadvisable, Fred, seemingly the self-appointed leader, has to go and make things predatorial. Whenever the pairings are made, Fred dictates who will go off with whom. Invariably, he pairs himself up with Daphne, who is clearly the subject of his intense romantic interest. Heck, he barely even addresses the other members of the gang when he can help it. And no matter what case they're on, Fred never fails to get Daphne alone with him in darkened rooms so they can investigate. That's what I was thinking too. Whoever wrote this article, he and I are on the same page here about that. They're hot and cold. This is a good point. The extended Scooby-Doo universe always looks chilly, perhaps because we so rarely see the sunshine. The near omnipresent fog also suggests a cool climate, as does Velma's sartorial choice of a cozy orange turtleneck sweater. See, that's what I call a bunchy sweater. I was talking to Rachel yesterday and saying INFPs wear bunchy sweaters. The bunchier the sweater you have on, the more likely you are an INFP. Velma's wearing a bunchy sweater of the sort that I'm talking about. However, all of this is confused by some other wardrobe selections. Velma pairs that bulky sweater with a mini skirt. Daphne opts for a leg-bearing number, and Shaggy wears a t-shirt. So maybe it is warm out. But the boys have long pants, and Fred's got that heavy-looking shirt. Never mind the ascot. Just what temperature is it in this world? Good question. The four humans of Mystery Inc. Fred Jones, Daphne Blake, Velma Dinkley, and Norval Shaggy Rogers. Yep, his real name is Norval. Together, this unlikely foursome, who don't seem to have much else in common, travel the land in their psychedelic van, solving mysteries and debunking supernatural phenomena. That much is clear, but what isn't is just how old they are all supposed to be. They're all at least teenagers because they have to be 16 to drive that van. Also, making them teens would make them as close as possible to the show's demographic of children, therefore more relatable. Plus, the villains love to call them meddling kids. But it also seems like they must be in at least their 20s because teenagers wouldn't likely be found living unsupervised on the open road. For that matter, why are they out on their own? Are they homeless? Fleeing something ghastly? In one installment, Scooby and friends meet Laurel and Hardy, the famous comedy duo. Those are actual people who lived, but both died long before the episode aired. On other occasions, the Duke group meets Sonny and Cher, Don Knotts, Josie and the Pussycats, and Batman. This implies that the characters are real because they interact with actual living humans. But if some of those humans are dead, does this mean that Mystery Machine is unstuck from time? Good question. Scooby-Doo constantly reiterates that ghosts aren't real and there's always a logical explanation for any supernatural entity, which is inevitably discovered by Velma, who promptly forgets this lesson, if not thesis statement, every single time. Shaggy and Scooby, every episode features these two crumb bums overreacting to what they think is a ghost. Invariably, Shaggy screams, "Let's get out of here, Scoob!" Like, "Let's get out of here, Scoob!" And then both man and dog flee in terror. They have either such terrible memories or such a fear of ghosts that they ignore all logic. Mystery Inc. seems to be a legitimate business, a sort of private detective type concern, long romanticized by shows like Magnum PI and Simon and Simon. Adult viewers will notice they're even registered with some kind of oversight agency and pay taxes, hence the Inc. after mystery. How does this company operate? Rarely does money ever change hands, but business seems to be booming, at least enough for the firm to afford a company car or a groovy van. One wonders what kind of wage the four humans earn and whether or not they receive health, vision, and dental benefits. The gang seems to be operating in a world where all buildings are falling apart and the land is dotted with closed amusement parks and long abandoned ghost towns. All of this, coupled with Shaggy's sheer relief when he comes across food, suggests these young entrepreneurs are trying to get by in a large scale bad situation. There seems to have been a severe economic depression that left the country in shambles. It seems like every episode of Scooby Doo follows the same trajectory. Mystery Inc. gang arrives in a creepy, desolate locale, encounters a ghost or monster, then exposes the ghost or monster, nothing more than a combination of some rear projection, sound effects, and a Halloween mask, generally the plot of some land developer or landowner hoping to scare people off their land. After a few episodes of this repetition, adult viewers definitely notice that work for Mystery Inc. is much like it is for most adults. Same stuff, different day. One would think Fred, Daphne, and the rest would grow accustomed and jaded to the work, but inexplicably, every time they initially assume that what they're investigating are real supernatural entities. Based on what happens during every single mystery they encountered, one of them ought to just walk up to the ghost or monster the first time they see them and tear off that mask. Of course, that would be the end of the show. And the masks are pretty impressive. Whether or not Scooby Doo takes place in a world of severe economic depression, there seems to be a thriving industry in masks so realistic that they can fool professional mystery solvers. That's a good point. Good point. Hi, Noel Merriam. I'm a nice jerk. Thanks. I think it's fair. I'm a jerky nice guy, maybe. Is more like that. More like it. I think I am the nice guy and I behave as a jerk sometimes. Yeah, I'll go with the ENFJ for Fred. I agree. Now that I've read a little bit more about the whole thing. Scooby is naked. Angatir is right about that. I'm surprised that they let that go on TV. Okay, so another day, another opportunity to fail. I got ENTP. How smart do I think I am? Uh, smart enough. Smart enough to accomplish what I need to. Maybe not smart enough to accomplish what I want to. Great Solar Flash 2024. How smart do you think you are, Noel Merriam? I guess we'll find out how smart you are. Mortals reek with the stench of decaying flesh. You are hanging out with some unwell mortals, Cloud. If the person you're hanging out with has rotting flesh, you should probably tell them to go to the hospital. To answer the question more in full, Miriam, no Miriam, smart's a tricky question. There's a lot of aspects to being quote unquote intelligent. Well, he uses a lot of FE, it seems like. He could be, he's so nice, though. I mean, he seems so nice. I think ENFJ. If you ask most people what they think about Fred, they'd be like, "Oh, he's super nice." And until you actually think about like how he runs shit and everything, you'd be like, "Why is he? He certainly is bossy." Um, so smartness is subjected to the people around you. I mean, whether or not a given individual attains a status of smartness is determined by third parties, not by something objectively measurable or by self-determination. Is that what you mean? No, Miriam. Um, Light Phoenix was taken. John Henry. That's why. Light Phoenix was taken. Hi, Eileen. So smartness in general can be sort of taxonomy. Um, First of all, you can talk about things that are smart in terms of effective ways of attaining things that you want or something. The sort of TE smart, you know. Uh, that's generally not what people around here are talking about uh, when they use the word. There's raw processing uh, of symbolic languages like INTPs have. They're the smartest at that. They can do a better job of extended conditional logic problems, for example, than I can. They can learn things quicker, memorize things quicker. Um, and Spacey is incredibly smart. Every INTP I suspect is like this, more or less. Uh, he picks shit up so fast it's insane. So yeah, it's smart. Then there's clever. There's tactical. Well, it's true that one element of truth, we have a variety of truth testing approaches. So certain kinds of statements are subject to different kinds of truth testing paradigms. And that's indicative of how there's really three legs to truth. Uh, if you're talking about one leg of truth is primarily for descriptive statements in the present or past tense about the physical world. And for those, you have a truth bearer, truth carrier kind of model that works, which is to say, uh, you have a specific set of data that's in the physical world that you can reference independently of any other person, and so we can check against that whether a given statement is true for those kinds of statements. Other kinds of statements require us to factor in the person's intentions, um, or there's also some consideration about certain kinds of statements that are more abstract. They link more strongly to whether or not people are using the words in the same way, which is called the correspondence theory of truth. So both those theories of truth historically have competed in philosophy, but my point has been, what I think about it is, I never read this, but this is what I think about it, is that it seems pretty clear that there are multiple modalities of truth testing, and those, to the extent they link distinctly to anything, they link to kinds of statements. But Noel Merriam, what if you are smart enough to get what you want, but do not care enough, or not dedicated or passionate enough to go after it, or just distracted? Well, there's an issue with managing wants across time. Like, if that is the case for you, for example, Noel Merriam, if you are smart enough to get what you want, but do not care enough or not dedicated or passionate enough to go after it, or just distracted, then you are getting what you want. In other words, what you want is whatever it is you're doing instead of going after what you say you want. The problem is you don't actually want what you say you want. You affirm that as a good idea, which is different. If you really wanted it, you do it instead. So your choice then is to come to terms with what you actually want, which is to twiddle away time doing shit like this that I'm doing. It's like, I'm okay with myself wanting and doing this. Of course, it's a lot easier to be okay with yourself wanting and doing when you've have in your past stretches of high achieving success, as I do. For a lot of years, I worked very hard as a debate coach and attained a lot of success. I'm a very good debate coach, and as director of Kudos, I would go places with it. Also, for a year or two of autonomy, I'd roll in with big teams and crush. You walk around with a certain amount of swagger in the community, the debate community, when you're heading to juggernaut, So I don't worry about like, will I die never having accomplished anything or done anything that's of note or something? I've already accomplished things and done things of note. I've come to understand the hollowness of it to a certain extent. I don't need to achieve for achievement's sake. I'm not a 3 in a Negro. I'm a 4. Achievement for achievement's sake doesn't do much for me. So But there are certain pieces of work I think deserve to be accomplished, like the work that deserves to be manifest that I have not manifest yet. I get frustrated with myself about that. Um, like I got I got a number of things back burnered that I'd like to get to and such, and but that's just reality. I've got to find out a number of hours, and among the number of hours that I have, I must spend a lot of them um, attending to my SI stuff, which is to say, I got to spend a lot of them sleeping, eating, uh, getting cozy, stuff like that. Just animal stuff, right? I can only spend a fairly finite number of my hours on creation or abstraction or this is this is the most this is like the cheap and easiest way for me to get gratification on the abstract intuitive level because I can chat with people here about interesting things and um, and then I don't have to do much SE or TE. I just push go live. If I'm really feeling, if I'm feeling lazy like I am now, I will just do the webcam one. Or sometimes there's other reasons to do the webcam one. If I die, you would be dead. You would not care. Well, that's true, but presumably there's some stretch of time before you're dead where you're dying, and you have a chance to think about how life has gone and whether you've done it well or poorly or whatever. Now, granted, if you get hit by a train and die instantly, then that's not that's not the case, and then you don't have a chance to do that whole "did I live well or poorly" thing that you would do if you die. You know, so you get terminal, you get diagnosed with cancer and die a month later. Then you got a month to think about it. Lord of the Promiscuous Any Tool. I like that. Stupid people have diploma PT, so how much does this count? Diplomas don't count for much of anything. What distinguishes SE polar from depression? Why aren't people with SE polar productive? Well, what distinguishes SE polar from depression is people with SE polar who are not depressed are playing video games and on the internet and engaging in conversations here and not feeling as though they just kind of lie in bed and do nothing. It's true that depressed people are not productive, but that doesn't mean that everybody who's not productive is depressed. So they do tend to be neurotic. They do tend to be self-critical, SE polars. That goes along with being any. I think INFPs are less self-critical, but then they're even more SE polar. They're the most SE polar types. They're more SE polar than INTPs. INFPs, on the other hand, though, don't have to worry about not knowing authentically who they are or doubting their own authentic worth fundamentally. Like INTPs and ENTPs, I I don't it's hard for me to understand that I have authentic worth outside of my uh, engagement with others. Well, look, I'm not saying they're not critical of their own behaviors. I'm not saying that they aren't critical of their own failure to act sometimes, but I'm saying they fundamentally know who they are and their own value in a way that INFPs don't. INFPs have the authenticity part down. Okay, so it's John Henry, you rank-ru-ro-rutch? Rank-ru-ro-rutch. Rank-ru-ro-rutch as well for you, John Henry. All right, John Henry, you go jump over that roof and go set that thing over there. Velma, you're coming with me back behind the building. How long does it take for people to know the vulnerable sides of you that are not like painted with logic and looking at different sides of the coin? Maybe for me, it doesn't take people long at all. It's easy to see the vulnerable side of me. I'm not very protective of it because it doesn't really make me vulnerable. I've learned over the course of many years that I don't have to front. It's like you eliminate the amount of things, the number of things about which one has to front decreases over the years if one grows. If one doesn't grow, then the amount of things about which one has to front probably grows. So I don't really feel like I have to front about anything anymore. And if something makes me sad, I just start crying, Like just the other day, I was talking about some political stuff that was really hitting me in the moisture tenders. And I was just crying a lot. And Winston's mom was confused. She's like, what's happening in here? Is this FE? Or people are saying like, no, this is authentic. All right, so you're saying they have the perception of authenticity that doesn't make them authentic. Okay, I will agree with you that this is not what but I'm not talking about that. I'm saying they have clarity, regardless of whether that clarity is appropriate, deserved, correct, incorrect, or whatever else. They have clarity about an aspect of self that INTPs have doubt about and that ENTPs are very confused about. So, yeah, I've taken an approach with this channel and with life since I left my second marriage. I've taken an approach of transparency, and it was partially in sort of a pendulum swing response to getting out of that relationship in which I had to. I was being policed a lot in my free expression, and I didn't like that. She was always getting me to try to shape my public persona to be consistent with her. ESFJ, we're a perfect family kind of thing that she's doing. And so perfect that she would include the right amount of imperfections so that it wasn't too perfect, It's like ESFJs are the kinds who artfully mess up the magazines on the table just to give it a little bit of a lived-in look, Come on. Anyway, so what I have is not so much, I guess I have authenticity, I guess you could call it that, but what I really have is not a lot of not a lot of heuristics of inauthenticity. So it's like I am not practiced, nor do I reflexively go to controlling my display. I'm very easy to read. I'm a terrible poker player. When I go down to Horn Gardens and play, if I hit the card that comes out or whatever hits me, then it's easy to read on my face, I guess. And that's part of the whole smartness question too. So the question of do I think of myself as smart? How smart do I think I am? I think I have a complete package of native talents. In other words, I'm natively going to be considered intelligent because of my cognitive function stack. I'm an ENTP. It's also the case that ENTPs are much rarer than people think. That the vast majority of so-called ENTPs are not ENTPs. So I do think I have that native advantage. Remember, wherever we're talking about smart or dumb or whatever, we're talking about where you fit along the curve. Are you up here or are you down here? It's not like you can determine smartness without. If you're going to determine a smartness that's communicatively meaningful, it's got to refer to that. If you're talking about smartness as somebody who's able to solve their own problems effectively, well, that's not something that an outsider can necessarily see. That's going to be such a subjective metric that it can't meaningfully be used to talk about smart. So when we're talking about smart in this context, we're mostly talking about communicatively smart, I guess you could say. And being communicatively smart means not only having TI processing skills, but also FE presentational awareness. And in this instance, it makes a lot of sense for me to take the approach I take, which is one of transparency and vulnerability, because first of all, it's tactically or strategically the best thing to do with a deficit is to instead of trying to remediate it, render it unnecessary that you go there at all. So what about the concept that you can become smart through practice? Of course, meaningful to conclude without knowledge of cognitive function, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think you can become good at TI with practice if you are TI polar. I don't think you can do that at all. It would be like a tone deaf person becoming good at. It is possible for a tone deaf person to become good at playing an instrument. My friend Chris Morrow from childhood, he plays classical guitar. He started playing guitar as a teenager or something, or 12-year-old or whatever, and he now plays classical guitar and has played it for 30 years or whatever. But he's tone deaf, or he used to be tone deaf, but he's I think an ISFP, and Noel Merriam says, I like York. You probably ignore the comments that consist personal attacks and shit. And you probably think mad doesn't even make sense. Well, you don't ignore. That takes effort. You just don't care. They don't impact me for very long. I read some comment yesterday. Let me see if I'll read it. This is the sort of shit that I appreciate you bringing up the negative comments. I should make a video where I just go through and find all these, like, the most negative comments about me and read them out loud on a video. That'd be funny. But comments. Let's see where it is. Here it is. A plethora of me says, dude, you sound like a little bitch. You make zero logical reasoning for a TI user that you think you are. Eric, you are clearly jello. You are also boring AF. I'm sorry because that was mean, but it's the truth. Sorry, not sorry. This was on This is a comment on a video called C.S. Joseph's Noises and Grunts. And so I just replied to it. I did reply to it. I've said, okay, bye. All right. I like this Curious Kyra. She's an interesting new person around here. So yeah, I don't ignore them in the sense that I will reply to them sometimes, and I do care a little bit. Like when I read that, I was like, "Fuck off!" You know, I have an immediate response of, but it's whatever. It's like I forgot about it until you mentioned. I don't have time to think about stupid shit like that. You know, somebody's saying on a C.S. Joseph video that I'm so jealous and whatever. Well, I mean, I'm not jealous of C.S. Joseph, so that critique doesn't bother me. I'm actually kind of feel bad for him. Cloud, I have never said I'm always correct. Nor have I ever said that TI is always correct. TI is not always the right modality to use in any given context. Hippie stuff is NI third. I mean, look, if you think about the third slot is you can talk about it as I'm yeah, you yeah, right? So it's third slot extroverted intuition is I talk, you listen. Third slot extroverted feeling is I perform, you applaud. Third slot introverted thinking is I decide what's just and fair, and you adjust accordingly. Third slot NI is I know the course, and you fit into it, I guess. Meditation. So you're saying people who aren't TI polar can theoretically become better? Well, they can become more practiced at it. I mean, unlike other, you could become more. TI is the most practicable of the attentional manners because it specifically is using symbolic languages more or less fluidly. If you use symbolic languages really fluidly, it's very easy for you to convert from actual meanings into variables. So, you know, if A, then B, if B, then C, A, therefore C becomes if I like apples, then I like cheese. If I like cheese, then I like dogs. Therefore, if I like apples, I like dogs. And INTPs, they can switch in and out incredibly fast because they got extroverted intuition as well, those symbolic things. But ISTPs can too, just only on the receiving, only on the deliberation end. They're not on the production end at all. So can people practice and become better at it? Sure. Somebody who's fifth slot TI, for example, who's never practiced any conditional logic problems, formal conditional logic problems, it'll take a little longer to get the hang of it as you're testing them. than somebody who, say, works in computer programming and is dealing with conditional logic all the time. So that's the case. But it's also the case that if it's fourth or seventh, it's going to take longer, even if you master the concept of it. Now, you can't really if seventh, but if it's fourth, let's say, and you understand the concept, and you've taken a logic class, let's say, and you've been trained, blah, 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 it's still going to take you a lot longer to solve the same problem, even no matter how much you practice, than it will at TI Dom or TI second. If you're seventh, you're asking yourself to try to achieve in an area where you are just naturally not at all talented. You're the opposite of talented. So it's like, why you shouldn't try to ask yourself to achieve in that area. It's silly. It makes no sense. I shouldn't expect myself to spend a lot of time in FI. That's torture, you know. I have plenty of FI just unbidden on as it is coming up, you know. I was sobbing yesterday in Naruto because it's so moving. It's so fucking moving. I mean, it's just like the way that I've talked about the scene where he's at the waterfall on that training island with Killer Bee, and he has to meet his dark self and win the fight against his dark self. Well, he basically ends up comforting his dark self and saying, I know that your anger is fear and pain and suffering, and I will beat you by embracing you and assuring you that it's going to be okay and that I won't allow you to be abused again. You know, it reminded me very much of an exercise that Becky walked me through when she functioned as me and Kim's relationship counselor, because I had sustained a lot of damage from Kimberly. And she walked me through an exercise called internal family systems, which is a very TE metaphor kind of approach to self-concept that withstands no TI scrutiny whatsoever, but that's fine because I found it very effective. You visualize a house in your head that represents you, and inside of that house are parts of you that are hurt, or the part of you that's hurt, or whatever. And you go and you talk to that part. Now, they use this for people who say sustained abuse is in childhood, because the parts of them that are in that house are very hesitant to be spoken to directly at all. They don't trust the central identity of the person to protect them, because they didn't protect them when they were kids. This is all metaphor, not TI sound. So don't TI me on this, please. And I guess for people who sustained abuse, it can be quite challenging to get that person in that house to allow you to talk to them and allow you to negotiate. For me, there was no resistance at all. The part of me that was hurt was happy to let me in, but I got a clear indication from that part that and the thing is, I was not told what to say or anything, or it's like there was given no guidance as to how this conversation was going to go down, but it was informative. The conversation went down like this. The part of myself that was hurt was angry at me for not protecting itself, for not protecting it. It's like my feelings, my childlike part that wants to be able to safely be joyous and free without running the risk of being shut down by somebody or cut down or belittled or emasculated or whatever, that I was allowing, one way or the other, this woman to abuse me, and I was not protecting my feelings, and my feelings were mad at me about that. So I mean, the thing about me feeling things a lot, when I do have a lot of F5 feelings, it tends to make me very sleepy. Uh, so especially if I cry or something, I almost immediately want to take a nap. Uh, and I kind of agree with Cloud here. Most people do kind of want to serve their fourth slot function in a sense that I see my fourth slot function as like the only one who really knows what's going on around here, but keeps getting largely ignored. Eric, what is FE polar? FE polar is INTJ, ISTJ. It means they aren't concerned about perceptual things. Like, but that makes me look bad. It's not something you hear out of an FE polar person's mouth. Or, ooh, I better say it this way or else Mia's gonna think that I don't like her hat. You know. It's a lack of concern about how others are perceiving you, and a lack of concern about regarding. Oh, I have. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. I need to smoke. I am indeed alive. Nice talking to you, Noel Merriam. I enjoyed your engagement with me this morning. Thought it was interesting. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to eat plenty of bees. I like the first way you put it. It's nice seeing you alive. It's like you expected me to be dead, but are pleasantly surprised. Well, I'll tell you what I'm dead of. I'm dead tired of this COVID shit. Dead tired, I tell you. I've had enough of you COVIDers. Had enough of this I could eat plenty of children. No, don't eat any children, Cloud. Children are not for eating. Injuring wasps? You mean maiming wasps? They're maim wasps. Do you know what the definition of mayhem is, actually? Mayhem is intentional dismemberment of somebody, like intentionally cutting out somebody's arm or foot or something. That's technically what the definition of mayhem is. Isn't that funny? It's not used like that. Right. Veal. That's eating children, just cow children. Hi, Nymphostrata. So I've got this, I've written these 4 movie pitches that Rachel and I are going to record and, act. I've got INTJ, INFJ, ENFP, and ISTJ. Those 4 types. That's a very helpful piece of advice for perceivers, Cloud. But I think that that's not true for judgers. So INTP, ESFJ. All right. But see, I'm not sure it works for. Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, so Cloud, here's the deal. I think that paradoxotype is correct for actual perceivers. That's to say, people with an N or an S in the first slot. And I think it's wrong for actual judges, people with a T or an F in the first slot. So INTJ and ENFP are perceivers. So for those two types, what Cloud's saying is correct. Paradoxotype is correct for INTJ and ENFP, but it's not correct for ENTJ and INFP. It would be ENTJ and ISFP. But you don't know what type you are, Cloud. So you already today called yourself 3 different types. You're not an ENTJ, though. Oh. Okay, fine, Cloud. I'm not saying, look, I think INFP is a tough type to find a match for at all, frankly. I think it's very difficult to find the right match for INFP. I don't think that ESTJ and INFP works well. So I'm willing to concede that my little theory of the paradoxotype for perceivers and duality for judges is not necessarily borne out by the evidence that I've seen either. It's like, I'm not sure if there is a formula for something like that. I know that INFPs, it's difficult for them to get into a relationship that they are genuinely satisfied with. They have such high needs, you know. They need a lot emotionally from people they're close to. And they need a lot structurally from the people they're close to. So yeah, it's the other thing is ISFPs are not necessarily interested in being in relationships. You know, they understand what it is that they want to do, and to the extent that relationships interfere with their ability to do what they want, then they're going to be aware enough to go, you know what, I'm not really a relationship person, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think you're giving him too much credit, Sky Gear. The thing is, he's been at this for too long. I at one point I thought that too, for sure, because Cloud is a smart guy, you know. But the thing that makes me convinced he's not an EHP is what EHP has this level of stick-to-itiveness for a meta joke. It's not going to pay off. Even if Cloud does come out eventually and reveal he's EHP and suddenly start killing it on TI things and start talking differently entirely, I'd say, well done. But, I mean, was it worth all that effort? What are you trying to prove? That EHPs are that clever? I mean, it's not going to, it wouldn't, I wouldn't feel like it showed me up at all. I feel like it proved my type pretty fucking awesome, pretty crazily weird, and ahead of the game, you know. ISFPs try to use you for pleasure, but they're not worthy. I mean, I think ISFPs are the flings of the world for a lot of people, because they do seem to have an ability to manage the other person not getting attached. Like, I'm not somebody who can do friends with benefits relationships, but the only one such thing that I ever was sort of able to pull off, I knew I didn't really want to be with her, but I was enjoying being with her, was an ISFP. So she seemed to know how to make it such that I didn't get too attached. Like, that's quite a skill. If you're going to be a single woman ISFP, you're going to have plenty of partners, I'm sure. It's better to just socialize. Well, I mean, look, I don't tend to do that very much. I don't tend to rep my type like a team. But I'm just saying, if Cloud were to pull a switcheroo and suddenly prove to be an ENTP, and that he's been playing a big joke on everybody the whole time, how I would spin it would be to say, ENTPs are interesting people. Nobody but an ENTP is likely to have done that. It's an FE thing. That's why you find it strange. It's totally an FE thing. You never did claim to be an ENTP, Cloud. I'm not. Skygear is claiming you're an ENTP, not me. Okay. Do we? Really? I don't feel like some of them do. I don't know. I feel like I've addressed most of the bad parts of ENTP that I used to manifest. Sometimes I still manifest them, He's the devotee of the promiscuous NE tool. Is TE the bachelor that tries to convince you that astrology is actually real since you share a single personality trait of your zodiac? No, that would be FI above NI. SFP probably. ISFP and ENTP need to be mature for me to not get too triggered. I do feel like I'm a pretty mature ENTP. And of course, what I continue to say is, for me, and possibly for my type in general, that positive growth requires objective self-criticism and accountability above everything else, and a clarity regarding who you are in words that gives you clear, that forces you to walk a narrow path to avoid hypocrisy. Because if I make a big set of statements about my position is I'm sort of an advocate of honesty, transparency, and so forth, then I have to be honest and transparent, or I subject myself to too much critique. And when I quit drinking, I engaged faith-based modalities, and those have served me well because they're still a way in which I can practice humility and practice an embrace of the notion that largely I'm lucky, largely I've been blessed, and only to some small extent should I credit myself for anything good that happens. The slabs have been incredibly kind and gentle to me, and sometimes because I'm Human. I am driven by my own fears and insecurities and ego stuff, I guess. And I try to be honest with myself about that. And taking a loss for HPs, you got to learn how to take a loss and go, even though I really don't want to have lost that, I lost that fight right there. They won. They schooled me. Because it's really hard for EHP to accept that. That's a third slot FE thing. When did I start following Jesus? I would not normally describe myself as somebody who follows Jesus. But I certainly would say that I do consider Christianity to be the source of a clear vision about what one ought to be as manifest in Christ. Note that I was born and raised an atheist. I'm not a churchgoer. I'm not a Bible reader. I'm not evangelistic at all. I don't tell anybody else what I think they should believe or not. I don't even think of it as an affirmation. I engage in faith-based behaviors, and I understand that as distinct from making statements that I affirm or negate about God or anything else. Well, I've got some poop for you then, Sky Gear. I've got a bag of poop with your name on it. So now you're not agnostic, Cloud? What are you now? Christian evangelist and Zen Buddhist at the same time? You understand that Zen Buddhism rejects the idea of positive moral indications and sort of expands the scope of negative moral indications, whereas Christianity runs afoul of it in that regard. So you're embracing well, not really, Cloud. I agree that they both are opposed to suffering and rights violation, but Christianity includes altruism, whereas Buddhism sees action as inherently having a negative moral aspect. So you have to make a choice. I should research a bit more. Okay. Cloud is the gauge of all knowing. TI dumpster. We went on a date and I totally made her my TI dumpster. She listened to my theories all night. My TINE dumpster. I have my hashtag own life. Thought crime. What's thought crime? Who has thought crime? Cloud is a being which is under constant flux and must gauge in every scenario whether he's being serious or not. He doesn't know if he's being serious or not a lot of times. He's just he's just meowing meow. He's meowing. He's look. He's in an environment where most of the things that we're talking about get brought up, discussed a little bit from various angles, and then get TI parsed. So he's bringing up new things. They don't TI parse, so a lot of them don't get sort of developed, and he's not quite sure why not. And it's. I never say anything I don't mean with every cell of my body. Okay, well, but the thing is, didn't you just earlier today say you were joking about being three types? This is like 5 minutes ago. MMA is only for show and TKD actually works. What does that mean? Mixed martial arts is only for show and TKD actually works? Or I don't know what you're talking about. But some sarcasm should be obvious. Okay. Well, oh, Taekwondo. I see. Well, the cat's out of the bag. Right. I forgot about that. My mistake. I'm constantly forgetting the realities of cloud, which differ from the realities of reality. Yeah, I see. Yes. Cloud used the analogy that Christianity is MMA and Taekwondo is no, Buddhism is MMA and Taekwondo is Christianity. I see. I mean, I would say, Cloud, that the problem with your analogy is that Taekwondo is a subset of mixed martial arts. So it would be better to say something like mixed martial arts and Christianity is negotiation. Chicken nuggets or ones made of gold? I'll have ones made of gold. Oh, you're not asking me which one I want. I see. And it's immature to have herd mentality. Well, what comprises herd mentality? And this is another thing I want to talk about is this whole maturity thing. A lot of times I'll receive critiques from people that somehow I'm immature. Why is maturity upheld as such a desirable outcome or such a desirable state of being? I don't find that when I'm at my best, I'm necessarily at my most mature. I do find that maturity is a positive thing to have when things are difficult. It's like, okay, if facing challenges, if facing critiques, if facing whatever, then fine. Be mature, and being mature in that regard would, I guess, mean don't succumb to your instincts to lash out, but try to make sure that whatever exactly happens here, you don't do a lot of damage. That's maturity, I guess. But most of the time when I'm having fun and enjoying life and being myself and doing the thing I want to do, I would not say I'm doing anything that's particularly mature. Maturity usually comes from I find that immaturity comes usually a critique from people who have a hard time articulating why your behavior is not up to standards, etc. Huh? Yeah. Or they have a problem with. I've noticed the following thing: there are some people in the world who have a problem with my lack of fear. I'm pretty. I'm pretty I feel safe. I feel safe in my skin, and there've always been since school. There've been a certain subset of people. I'm not sure who they are exactly. I don't know if it links to type or if it links to just SI stuff from their own life or what, but whatever. There's always been this subgroup of people that hate me immediately because they see me as not stomped down enough. Like, it might be I don't know. It's like everybody has some fears, but when it comes to engaging with the world or engaging with people, my fears are not very evident or present or relevant. And some people they just don't like the way that I insist on standing out, I guess. And I can kind of understand that. I periodically feel something like somebody needs to take you down a notch about other people, like Teal Swan, But, and so I get it. Like, I do that same sort of thing to Teal Swan that I say people do to me sometimes. And I understand how they might feel that way. Like, this guy's too full of himself, or he thinks he knows everything. Of course, it's kind of a conundrum when you have a YouTube channel and you are explaining stuff all the time. And at this point, when it comes to cognitive functions, I do think I'm right when people are disagreeing with me. And so I just argue that point. It's like if we were talking about something like debate, formal competition debate, nobody would have a problem with me being an expert in it because I'm a professional debate coach, and it's an established and sort of finite school of study that I genuinely am an expert on, and that I have the sort of symbols of competency as well. Yeah, well, I was, it's like when watching Teal Swan, I don't know if you saw my video, Good Teal, Bad Teal, but, I agree with a lot of things she says, and I disagree with some of the things she says, and I don't like her attitude. I don't like her lack of egalitarianism. I can't stand the fact that she calls herself a spiritual luminary. It makes me want to just run right over there and shove my foot up her ass, It's like, the fuck? If you were a spiritual luminary, you wouldn't make that mistake, calling yourself a spiritual luminary. Whatever that means. It's like, it's such a freaking meaningless term. That's why she can call herself that. I can tell you all licenses all the time did not license her to be a spiritual luminary. She also assumes that everybody comes from pain. Luminary. A luminary is one who shines brightly in a given field. So you might say, like, Frank James is a personality type imitation guy, luminary. You think she's a sensor who's latching onto the tiny bit of intuition she has? I think she's either ESTJ or ENTJ. I'm not sure which. But I suspect it's ENTJ. Am I out of cigarettes? God damn it. She's calling herself a sun in the universe of spirituality, lighting us all up with her wisdom. Teal Swan, light me up with your wisdom. Illuminate me with your wisdom, Teal. Please. Only you can prevent forest fires. I have no more cigarettes. What the hell am I going to do now? I am out of cigarettes. Didn't I tell you guys to not let me smoke all my cigarettes? Cloud, do you know where gnomes come from? I mean, my main problem with Teal Swan, I guess, is she does what a lot of people do without being aware they're doing it or anything, which is she projects a lot of her own experience onto everybody and says, okay, well, here's a general rule, but it's only a rule for a certain subset of people, you know? And I think that generally that's kind of dangerous because it is the case that people listen to YouTubers and are impacted by what they say. Rachel's often watching YouTube videos, Googling stuff, and is often impacted by what she hears, negatively or positively. You know, when she wants to find out something about our relationship, she's much more likely to Google something than she is to think about the experience she has with me or talk to me or whatever. Of course, the only way she will ever meaningfully evaluate this relationship is by paying attention to the actual relationship data, not reading articles about can relationships between people that's more than 10 years distance between them work? Well, how is that article going to get you closer to the truth than you're actually opening your eyes and looking at the data you have? It's like that's backslot FI. It's like she really countervalues using her own feelings to make determinations about things. The next one's in 2024. Planet Earth will transcend the third dimension. Ooh, 4-dimensional Earth or 5? When we get to 4-dimensional Earth, isn't basing your relationship on external sources a fairly TE thing to do? No, because TE users have FI. So if you're a TE Dom, you probably don't pay much attention to what you want, but when you need relief from your extroverted thinking, that's where you go. And I mean, the thing you got to remember is Rachel's in a very difficult position here. No matter how much I try to attend to what makes it difficult. No, they do care a lot, James. It's weird. It's just look at an ESTJ. ESTJs have their immediate family and stuff whom they care for a lot, in the sense that they take care of them a lot and they see them as their responsibility, and they do harm prevention and that kind of stuff. But they're not concerned so much about whether the relationship is, it's like the relationship just is. If you're an ESTJ, the relationship just is, and you just make it work. And the longer you're with the person, the more attached you become to them, because your SI tool, you get everything is based. You deal with everything by what you've done before, what's familiar, who's in your life, etc. It's that FI6. It's like, I don't, for example, TE. I don't like to use TE even when it's appropriate. But I have to. A lot of times, solve problems, and I understand that it's important that I allow my sixth thought expert thinking into my own life as much as possible, because sixth thought function is one that you give when other people demand it of you. Rachel's used to displaying her FI as a way of engaging other people, as to basically moving them. So when asked to make decisions about what they know using that function, they don't want to do that, because they like to use NI and TI. Best friend. Jake. I would rather my hypothetical girlfriend cheat on me with my best friend than my worst enemy, for sure. I can make new friends. I can't unlose that battle. I bet a lot of people would have more trouble than that answering that question. I have no trouble answering that question at all. It's cut and dry. You can't get to know any type by talking about them. You need to observe them in the real world. Observe, analyze, see patterns. You mean, like, to learn about type, you'd have to do something like have a bunch of hour-long conversations in which you really pick apart their brain and figure out who they are? Oh, you mean like all those typing sessions I've done? Would that end the friendship? Yeah. That would end the friendship. I mean, if my friend was if my friend was really broken to begin with, and I knew that the woman was trying to trying to hurt me by ruining him further, then and that he just fully understood just how it was her exploiting his insecurities or something, then I might. I mean, once. Maybe not. After the chick's gone, I get a new chick. Maybe not. But it would require a lot of conversation. I could, it's like I would definitely. I understand that the only person that had an obligation to not sleep with anybody else besides me is my girlfriend, and she's the only one who's responsible for failing to fill that obligation. But at the same time, I would not. I have before, but I would never again be the other man. And because the one time I was that, I didn't like it at all, and I understood and learned a lot of things from it, and I'm not going to do that ever again. ENFJs are generally quite insecure about their relationships, as they ignore the frameworks of relationships and focus on the outwards emotionality of people. So they need quite a lot of reassuring validation on the status of the relationship. Well, Rachel needs a fair amount. She's an INFJ, but the thing is, I have no problem providing that, but I need them to express their needs regarding that. NFJ and Rachel, I need her to express her needs regarding that in ways that don't make me feel unsafe, you know? So if she wants to be reassured and validated this is the right relationship for me, I'd be happy to do that. But she shouldn't seek that validation by speculating that maybe it's not. Because then that's going to make me think that she doesn't want to be in a relationship. Yeah. Give me a couple thousand brawny slaves and a bunch of bricks. Sky's the limit. I mean, I think it's really trippy, the story of Oak Island, that there's this History Channel miniseries of this treasure that's supposedly there and the money pit and all that stuff. And this incredibly complicated setup that somebody made, hundreds of years ago. And the thing to remember, Cloud, is they had concrete. Even the Romans had concrete that would set underwater. So don't underestimate the technological ability of the olden days peoples. Cloud, did you hear what I said? The Romans had concrete that would set underwater. They're called Brith and Lepth. Breadth and length. So there's length, breadth, width, breadth, and length. But Cloud, that didn't respond to what I said. Cloud, did you know? Did you know this? I just learned this the other day, that the Romans had concrete that can set underwater. It's pretty crazy, huh? You build a big ass thing out in the harbor or whatever, if you're Romans, with this concrete that sets under seawater. That's really impressive. Well, maybe there's 7 dimensions, Van Wayne. I think you're right. I think there are 7, actually. Look, as light beings, we understand that there are plenty of dimensions that most people can't see that we live in all the time. Like right now, I'm mostly in the 11th dimension. I'm giving a huge lecture in the 11th dimension right now about something totally unrelated to this. You guys are just getting the dregs of my attention. 11th dimension Eric is busy as fuck right now. 7th dimension Eric is resting. 5th dimension Eric, I think he's having lunch. Bust out the string theory, y'all. 5-dimensional soul? How many dimensions does my soul have, Cloud? Cloud, 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 cloud. How many dimensions does I still have? I want to know how many dimensions I still have. Cloud, tell me. Do I have 5 dimensions still? I want 5 dimensions. Oh. Can I have 4? At least 4? Come on. I want 4 dimensions. My soul's bigger than yours, James. Your soul's not that big. Just because it looks bigger on camera anyway. It's like if you're using mirrors and camera tricks to make your soul look bigger. I bet in real life it doesn't even look very big. Well, you gotta book one of the not flat. You gotta book. Don't book the budget 7th dimension, okay? Because it doesn't come with a meal. You don't have to get the first class 7th dimension, but just the upgraded class where you at least get the sandwich and the free set of headphones. I have all 11 dimensions. Thanks, philosophical thinker. There seems to be a dispute between Cloud and philosophical thinker as to how many dimensions I have. Being SI polar makes all your knowledge pure in I, which is very interesting. Pure in I. The juiciest kind of NI. 100% pure, uncut NI. Take it straight to the dome, Cloud. Take that NI straight to the dome. My little buttercup has the sweetest smile. Gee, little buttercup, won't you stay a while? We could have a cottage with a meow built for meow. Oh, my little buttercup, sweet little buttercup, my little buttercup, I love you. Look, what we're seeing here is just the exhaust of upper dimensional Cloud, okay? Real Cloud, full blast Cloud, he's operating right now in 12th dimension, 11th, 10th, 9th, 8th. I think he's resting in 7th, 6th, and 5th. But down here, we're just getting his leftovers. He poops occasionally, and we perceive that as his words, but we're just getting the scraps of his attention, the last 0.01% of it. The other dimensions are occupying most of his attention. No, Vainamoinen, it's not an illuminary. It's a luminary. Okay, like this. Luminary. We kind of, David Grandin, kind of. You see, in the dimension of luminaries, Keel Swan is the queen, and Cloud is the king. And together, they hang out with Alex Jones, eating candy. So we're all learning. We're all learning about dimensions from Cloud today, and he's been kind enough to share his genius with us. Yesterday, he stumbled onto some sort of religious cult leader. Was it C.S. Joseph? Who looked exactly like the guy he was inspired by, who had died about the same time he was born. Joe Cocker? Is it Boss Skaggs? Jesus? Was it Jesus? Mike Gardner? Who is Fred? I'm talking about Fred from Scooby-Doo. Come on, gang. We can do it. Scooby, Shaggy, you guys go investigate over there. Velma, you go off by yourself. Daphne and I are going to go over here underneath the bleachers. I'm going to get my hump on, dog. I'm going to get my hump on. Get some Scooby snacks. Run off and play. And what makes one... Oh, Itachi knows all the timelines. I see. But only one timeline is manifest. The cloud. So he doesn't really know the other timeline, does he? He only speculates that only one timeline is ever manifest. That's what causality is. Itachi is like the Jesus of Naruto. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you there. If you think that Jesus would kill his entire clan in order to save his village, I'm not sure that's the case at all. But I will agree that Itachi certainly sacrificed himself for something. Okay. So who are they? Skaggy, Lord of the Promiscuous Any Tool. Who are they? Oh, my bad. Yeah, they have exactly the same shaped soul. It's a rhombus. Nobody's going to dispute that. Everybody knows the shape of their soul is rhomboid. One's a Bulgarian philosopher, and the other is a weird cultist nut. A Bulgarian philosopher and a weird cultist nut walk into a bar. Yes. Souls come in only normal shapes. You got your square souls. You got your round souls. Triangular souls as well. You got your square souls. And your pentagon souls. Your hexagon souls and octagon souls. Yes, it's true, some souls are rhombuses as well, though it's an unusual shape. And other souls, they are the shape of Kongapong. My soul's square, yours is round. Mine's in the air while yours is on the ground. My square rhombus and yours feels like a circle. And when came Krishna's time up with you, came me, she said, what song do you do? I said, King Krishna, son up with you. Your soul is triangular, just like you, Gloria. freshest souls taste like clam chowder. Everybody knows that. And if your soul's too rancid, then it tastes like powder. Everybody also knows that. If you're asking those kind of questions, you should long ago have learned. Souls have shapes just like they dates, and souls can also get burned. A little song called Souls Have Shapes by Bendy Ben and the Bendable Bees. I'm glad to hear that, Cloud. Thank you for letting me know. That's good YouTube data. We're not useless. We're not useless. What's that to say about that? Okay. Is that what you wanted to hear? That's what you're getting. Spicy souls. Everybody likes the spiciest of souls best. Now that's a spicy soul. Gerald has a thought. Gerald has a lot. Gerald has a plot to get the Marjorie Taylor Tots. She's got a good idea for a name change of business. Thinking now about what it called Christmas. When they hire his firm to change that name. Gerald always thought they'd be tense enough to return to the work left rough. Back to it eventually. Beef. His visions piled up, and his plans would interrupt all the work started off so hopefully. Now his mind is back on his business, thinking of changing backlist of business. So how all of the people will shout his name. And Gerald knows he understands ever more clearly now. He won't provide explanation regarding the why or how. He'll see you and know you from inside your heart. Because beef is the flavor that makes you fart. And Gerald still knew there's too much to do. He ain't got time in the underview. Too much to rebut. So where now and what? Too much time spent picking this cue with you. Gerald has a thought. Gerald has a lot. And Gerald has a thought to get the Marjorie's tasty spots. He's got a good idea for a name change of business. Thinking now about what he'll call Christmas with. Hire his firm to change that name. Gerald has a thought. Wasn't the best rendition of that ever, but not too bad. My soul ought to taste like shit with Indian spices. My body ought to taste like something's kind of nice then. My body ought to taste like China. And my soul ought to taste like France. And my mind ought to taste like something taken outside of grandma's pants. My body gotta taste like England. And my face gotta taste like Thai. And Mexico. Lord knows I don't know why. The bottom of my feet tastes like the maple syrup of Canada, while the top of those same feet, dear, why they just taste like Panama. What's my soul taste like? It tastes so different than my body. If you don't agree with me, then you are certainly naughty. Thanks, Gankir Krishna Sarmapagu. What do I feel in my heart right now? What emotion is there? Can somebody help me figure it out? It's kind of like, that's how you describe emotions. What is that thing, that emotion called? And it's just like, oh, yeah. What is that emotion? That's what I'm feeling right now. Feeling that emotion. I just read this morning where you saw Kalki has come and trying to restore integrity of this planet. Somehow I got the vibe that gave me an Antichrist vibe. Who's Kalki? I don't know who Kalki is. You feel the whispers of the void within you? It's great. The void whispers within me. Filling my heart with nothing. Oh, existential crisis for today. I learned that dapper is not an emotion. Guys, there's nothing to be lost or not lost about. I'm just existing in the world like everybody else, being a brigadier general in the Panamanian army. You know, that's how that shit goes. That's how it goes. What's the matter with Chad? Is he terribly bad? Is he rather like Dan, who's a terrible man? Is he sort of like Jill, who can't pay her bill? Or rather like Jack, too stuck on the facts? What's the matter with Sue? Will she know what to do if they bring attitude? Will she show ingenuity? I'm not sure what I'm feeling right now, what I want to do, where my center is right now. You know, it's like it's as confusing as confusion can be. When life brings you lemonade, try to convert it back into lemons, if possible. Who wants lemonade? Nobody. If life gives you lemons, well, now you've got a lot of lemons. Who wants that? Pretty much nobody. Pretty much nobody, I would say, wants that. A lot of lemons. Hey, look, I got you a lot of lemons. Oh, thanks. Just what I wanted? Yeah, you did. According to whom? Where did you get this notion that I wanted a lot of lemons? Your mom told me. When did you talk to my mom? And why? Just yesterday, to find out if you wanted a lot of lemons. She said, yes, you did. Your mom wouldn't lie, would she? Apparently she would, because I don't want a lot of lemons. You're living on a time frame that I will never know. Alienation and humanity's soul. Imagine you a future after the collapse, returning to the urgency of isolated past. Picturing community free of metaphysics, hunting buffalo while you're picking red delicious. Knowledge of the seasons, wisdoms of old. Fires blazing in the night to keep away the cold. Hostility is kept at bay by what you think is in the way of life as children of the land. With an agave weatherman, imagining a history that never could have been. You lecture at the college, advancement is a sin, lamenting disconnection and every corporate act, asserting all your feelings and ignoring all the facts. Hostility is kept at bay by what you think is in the way of life as children of the land. With an agave weatherman, you find modernity just so banal. Wish you had left any time but now, and your experience will run afoul of exceptions you might allow. Visualize nobility sipping on some port, or tribes of peaceful savages in beautiful comport. But few of history's people ever thusly did cavort, because life was solitary, nasty, brutish, poor, and short. Hostility is kept at bay. Hostility is kept at bay by what you think is in the way. By what you think is in the way of life as children of the land. With an agave weatherman. With an agave weatherman. Pa 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 pa. Pa 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 pa. Can you please stop saying pa 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 pa? Nobody likes that. Pop pop. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. That thing. Nobody likes that. Not even mommy? No, I talked to your mom about that too. She doesn't like it at all. No more pop, 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 pop from you. Everybody thinks you're dumb for doing that. God, why does he do that? Everybody says. He's so dumb for doing that. Really? They say that about me? Yeah. Oh, yeah. All the time. Constantly. I hear that every day, at least 4 times a day. From whom? Everybody. Everybody whom? Everybody. What's the matter with Chad? Is he terribly bad? Is he very like Dan, who's a terrible man? Is he sort of like Jill, who can't pay her bill? Or rather like Jack, who's stuck on the facts? What's the matter with Sue? Will she know what to do if they bring her to? Will she show ingenuity? She talks about you whenever we go walking. What's the matter with Bryn? Is she living in sin? She's been living in tent and everything. Frank stealing fish from my tank. He's colluding with you, and they're talking to Lou. What's wrong with the ladies? What's the matter with men? From the feelings of Katie to the coldness of Sven. They talk about you whenever we go walking. Paths that lead to lesser days. They'll spill out over watered paths, and whoever's left that's still okay, just tie the sails to the mask. Are you angry at Ken or at Neville again? Don't bother with Cap, he's practically dead. Just focus on Bert, he's medium hurt. Quantity for Liz, did she fail a quiz? What's the matter with Drew? Will she know what to do? With differing attitude, will she show ingenuity? She talks about you whenever she goes walking. Paths that lead to lesser days, paths that lead to lesser days. Spin still out the over, spin still out the over. And whoever's left, that's okay. Just tie the sails to the mast. Each of us have much engravely sinned. Throw up the hands, stiffen the chin. Catastrophe looms heavy overhead again. Time's gone will never be again. Wonderful song, wonderful times, wonderful feelings, wonderful rhymes. Wonderful ways, wonderful days. Wonderful, wonderful. Hey, hey, hey. Hi, I'm your friend, Wonderful Wally. And today we're wondering about what it means to really be wonderful like me. And hopefully you. Because everyone is wonderful on Wonderful Wally's Wonderful Wednesday. Today's not Wednesday, but you can still be wonderful. Can I? Yes, you can. You get to be wonderful. Congratulations. I am so lucky. Do you hear that, everyone? I get to be wonderful. You do. You do. Nobody's going to take that away from you. Not today. Or at least not tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Today, maybe. No promises. Aw, but I want promises. Too bad. Too bad for you. You get no promises. You can have prom dresses if you like, but no promises. There's too much noise in the data stream for that, okay? Too much noise in the data stream. Starting the song over. Too much noise in the data stream. Loud enough to disrupt everybody's dreams. Frustrations mean mistakes are made until it seems everybody's throwing shade. I won't be just another casualty of other people's well-intentioned rules. I used to think that some tomorrow would be time for yesterday. That sort of thing that one can borrow. No one really will do it, baby. For uncertainty's implicit, just like an unexpected visit from a bunch of men all dressed in blue suits. I won't be just another casualty of other people's well-intentioned rules. I used to think that some tomorrow would be time for yesterday. It's a hard song to play. Difficult on the right hand, not the left. Although not super easy on the left, but not super difficult either. El Nino, my ass. You call those storms? Where is the rain? Those drizzles don't count, I drizzle more. When I pee in the sink, which is just the right height to catch all of the undesired splatter. And when I'm done, I'll go outside and climb a ladder. I will go up there and take me a bucket and pour water inside. And I'll say, hey, Mr. Cloud, drop it from the bottom. Hey, Mr. Cloud, drop it from the bottom. Hey, Mr. Cloud, drop it from the bottom of me. Again, after school, we can hang around by the pool. Did your mom get back from the business trip? Is she there? Is she trying to give me the slip? I'm not where I used to be. I'm grown up now, can't you see? Stacy's mom has got it going on. She's all I want, and I've waited for so long. Stacy, can't you see that you're not the girl for me? I know that might be wrong, but I'm in love with Stacy's mom. I mowed your lawn. Your mom came out with Krista on. The way that she stared, and words she said, you missed the spot over there. And I feel a fantasy, but since your dad walked in, not like me, Stacy's mom has got it going on. It's all I want, and I've waited for so long. Stacy, can't you see that you're not the girl for me? I know it might be wrong, but I'm in love with Stacy's. Kind of. Kind of challenging to play, I guess, in a little bit of a way. At least I didn't play very well, I guess I could say. Be a better way to put that. When you were here before, couldn't look you in the eyes. Just like an angel, your skin makes me cry. You're like a feather, a beautiful world. I wish I was special, so fucking special. But I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. I don't care if it hurts. I wanna have control. I want a perfect body. I want a perfect soul. I want you to notice when I'm not around. You're so fucking special. I wish I was special, but I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. Hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. I'm a creep. I'm a creep, little peep. Don't forget to say meep when you come over here to have yourself a eat. Come play with me and come hang with me and come say, Mr. Peep, that you're laying with me. I will experience a great awakening. Am I asleep currently? Is this a dream? What's the big problem? It's a tough song to play. Let me see if I can. I like to play it though. I want to play it. It's oh yeah, actually here. Hi friends. Oh, he came here with dirt. Now what's the big problem? getting got. He's got you. Refrain for him. Training for him. Going to the gym to make yourself good enough again. You guys both have lots invested. That's not a reason to stay around. Through the years, you both been tested. Time to move up, find higher ground. Boom, boom, oh, he came here with her. And what's the big problem when you can't enter? It seems so sure it's not appropriate claiming to blame things on Scott by getting got. He's got you. Refraining for him, straining for him, going to the gym to make yourself good enough again. Be done with him. So this song is one I basically can't play, and the reason is because I can't play this strumming pattern of this song and sing at the same time. It's challenging anyway. It's very challenging. I need to practice it a lot more. I like the song a lot. I wish I could play it, but I need to practice it more. Thank you for bringing it up. If a week from now we're an open flower, and tomorrow afternoon I'll be, nature would never form democracy. I have a better version of this somewhere. We attempted something together's gone unremembered. You complained, but I explained, darling baby, that was way back in December. That's not a good version of that song. Pocket Tart Lemon Squeeze. Oh, well, here's a pocket tart lemon squeeze. He's a friendly guy, as everybody sees. Yeah, he wants to be your friend, but he lives around the bend, so it could be a while till pocket tart lemon squeeze. He's a friend to you and me. International delights, favorite go-to right-hand guy. International like him, man. He's a self-physical friend. The busiest creature, busy as a bee and busy as a beaver, and so more busier. A pocket tart lemon squeeze. Lemon squeeze, he's a friendly guy. Yeah, he wants to be your friend, but he comes from must be a C. Okay. So it might be a while till you see him again. Pocket tart lemon squeeze. Pocket tart lemon squeeze. This is a good playlist here. Cause Thanks for noting cantankerous children. That's very, it's a rather obscure one to note. Where is that here? So it might take a while till you see. I haven't listened to these songs here in such a long time. All these songs on this playlist. The ones at the beginning of it, anyway. The answer to that question about the voice, James, by the way, is sometimes I don't like sound of my voice when it doesn't sound good. But I'm able to distinguish between when my voice sounds good and when it doesn't. Like, I didn't like the voice in that rendition of A Week, whatever the song's called. This is the kind of song which people say I've got to say, even though it's slow, because it's easy, not difficult. You can sing the melody, go ahead, it's not your fault if you sing it wrong. You can play along too, it takes a T, don't you do any more chords than that. Until you go down to G, one full step above E, and then a half step down, and then a full step up to G. Said that's how you play it. That's how I say it. That's why. Is it too loud? Is it too bold? Is it another adjective? Is it concrete or is it abstract like abstract meat? Isn't a thing yet, but it will be before you know. If little dogs were circular instead of like little loaves of bread, if little dogs were circular, they would be here with me instead of these square cats. No, not the band. I'm talking about square cats. They cut. This is a really good song, actually. Reconnect. I will let her know. No, don't say that. That's a dumb thing to say. That suggests subverting. It suggests connection. It suggests a long-term future of reconnection. Not looking for that. I'm only looking to chat. Terrible recording. Nobody can attain a solution that I see in Alright, I'm gonna wrap this up. I gotta get cigarettes. Made no sense. Wow, please get people back on the credits. We're giving that. Got a problem on except on it goes by loose meat. We need a desire loose meats. Most can't easy to beat the deal and meat. I think you'll be great at this seat. They can't see the department. I'm wondering whether you should go in there because you're wishing that there were so many people staring at the meat that's hanging from the ceiling and the floor. I think you've got more space and soul. Girl, that's how this means. Girl, that's all that we've been looking for. You're the motherfucking czar of loose meats. Yeah, you are. Have whole lot to say. Don't mean he's nuts. We need to see. We know life is filled with responsibilities. Sometimes they have a paperwork and taking any longer. I don't feel like building out. Can you explain what this is all about? No one understands that's the rule of asking why. But how could you expect compliance from any guy if you don't know the answer to that? This song started as one more thing. It started out as one more thing. But it up as one more thing. But it up as one more thing. I'm tired of my clever songs. Don't want no rapping. I'm looking for liberation from acting anyway. I'm tired of those complications. Tired of confirming I'm impressed you. Tired of living with the yearning that I can't guess. I know I do. I'm tired of my clever songs, all filled with rapping, looking for simplicity, looking for understanding, looking for resonance with viewers and also envy. And I'm looking to see whether anybody else would like this song. It's got limited appeal because it doesn't do much but steal ideas by the dozen. It won't aspire to much more than that, and yet I would hope maybe Zack would like it anyway. It may be I don't know, but I say that's E minor, that's where it ends today. Oops, I was taking you out. Doesn't matter. Been a long time coming, but I think that this freestyle's pretty fair. Pretty good. Oh, right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for being here. It was a logical thing. Marry me a giant.